Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn, psychic medium. Thank you for being with me today. And today I have a very dear friend with me. I want to introduce to you because I know that you're going to want to know about her and you're going to want to know about the work that she does because it's really transformational, really transformational. So this is Francisca. And I'm going to let her talk a little bit about what she does because she can really describe it better than I can. So take it away. Tell everybody what type of energy work that you do.
Thank you so much, Susan, for having me on your channel. I really love you. And I'm so glad that we met the way that we did. And we can kind of talk about that if you want to as well. But I am a conscious connected breathwork facilitator. And I also read tarot. I also do other healing modalities like Reiki and restorative yoga. But really the main focus for me is conscious connected breath work. And conscious connected breath work is this really powerful breathing technique that you can use to help clear your mind and connect with your body so you can connect to that higher part of yourself, to that part of yourself that doesn't start thinking about all the things that are wrong, but instead thinks of all the things that are right, the way that we're all connected to each other. And you get there by doing this intentional breathing practice. It's really active and it's really intense. So it's not, I would not call it a relaxing technique, although you can release some tension, mostly release like deep emotional baggage. It's really good for people who've had trauma or people who just want to connect to their higher selves, connect to their soul, really come back home to themselves. And in that process, sometimes what happens is, and it's happened quite often with a lot of my clients, is that they connect with loved ones that have passed because they get out of their mind, they're in their body, and they're connected to their soul or their higher power. And a lot of people get downloads and insights, and you can really access that space when you have released this emotional baggage. Sometimes I combine that with tarot. Sometimes I do a negative energy cleanse throughout one of the sessions, just depending on what the client needs. And so I help people connect to their truth through breath work and through tarot. And sometimes, like I said, Reiki and restorative yoga, but mostly breath work and tarot. So yeah, this is a really powerful technique that I use sometimes on a daily basis, just depending on how my life is going. If I feel like I need that kind of work every day, then it helps to release tension and helps to clear like that overactive mind. And it also helps you to get to a space where you can be more productive. Because when you're carrying all this emotional and logical baggage around, it's hard for you to get things done in a day-to-day lives, in your day-to-day life. So that's basically what I'm doing and the type of work that I'm doing these days.
That is amazing. So first of all, before we go too much further, how can people contact you or where can they learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so I just recently created a quiz. I released it yesterday, as a matter of fact. You can go to my website. It's isabeltigerlily.com. And if you look at the homepage, you'll see right away it says, find the breathwork style that's right for you, or breathwork quiz, either one. And taking the quiz is going to help you match your personality with a breathing style and self-care plan that's right for your personality. Because what I found after doing so much work, so much of this work, whether it's Reiki or aromatherapy or any of these modalities that I do, is that different personalities have different ways of healing, and really matching a breathwork style that's right for you is really important. So I think the first step is going to my website, taking the quiz, signing up for the newsletter if you want to hear from me on a weekly basis, because you'll get like weekly 1-card readings in my newsletter. And that's how you can really stay in touch with me. Or you can go to my YouTube channel under Isabel Tiger Lily. And I do monthly tarot readings there, and I'm doing like a monthly series. This month is processing uncomfortable feelings, because I know in the spiritual community, it's kind of a little bit maybe people don't like to process their uncomfortable feelings because they're like, I don't want more of that. I don't want to attract more of that. But I think it's really important to do that. So my YouTube channel, my website, and also signing up for the newsletter, taking the quiz. Yeah, it's not difficult. It's all over the that homepage. So isabeltigerlily.com is how you can find me.
Awesome. And I had some questions. So why is the name of your company Isabel Tiger Lily and your name is Francisca?
Yeah, I've had people call me Isabel before, and I know how confusing that is. Yeah, so Isabel Tiger Lily is actually the name of my dog who passed away in 2015. So my voice is cracking just because to think back about all of that time is really interesting, because the person that you see sitting in front of you is so different than the person that I was when I had my dog Isabel, and her name, she was Prissy, so her name was Isabel Tiger Lily. Yeah, I went through a really rough patch. I was numbing a lot. I was doing a lot of cocaine, doing a lot of drinking, doing a lot of smoking pot, and just not really connected to myself. And I didn't know the point of anything. I was so depressed. And I started meditating when she got sick. I was just, sometimes I'd meditate just so I could get a little bit like back down to earth. And that actually helped. But she passed away in 2015. I went through a few years of more depression, more just like deep stuff, like drinking lukewarm beers in the morning and, going on these cocaine binges, and just lost, really numb and not feeling anything. And I almost died in 2018. I had to get a blood transfusion. I had to get 6 pints of blood transfused into my body because I wasn't taking care of myself. I was literally bleeding to death. I had fibroids that were really big and just really causing me, again, like I said, to bleed to death. And I almost died. And I had to have surgery. I had to have a hysterectomy to get my uterus removed. And I had a whole month to just heal and recuperate, where I couldn't do anything. And I wasn't, drinking, and I had people come to take care of me. And at the end of that month, I was like, I need to do something with my life. I need to do something different. I've been meditating. I need to start meditating more. And I started doing it. And throughout the meditation, I found this connection with my dog, Isabel. And it was like, start a website. You don't know what you're going to do. You're going to sell essential oils and jewelry, because I make jewelry, and you're going to sell your paintings, and that's what you're going to do. And so I named the website Isabel Tiger Lily. But coming full circle, now I'm at the point, like probably in the next few months, I'm talking to a website designer to transition everything over to my name. But for right now, it's Isabel Tiger Lily. So long story. Sorry, it's a little long-winded, but
no,
yeah.
It's perfect. So I have so when you say you had a connection with your dog during that time, I mean, do you feel like you felt her spirit? Do you feel like, I mean, she was involved in this sort of process of like, okay, I've hit this bottom and I need to rebuild from here. And you feel like she came to you with that kind of love or that kind of support?
Yeah, no, she's been involved with me this whole time. I believe that the reason that she came into my life, and the reason that I came into her life, was because we were meant to come into each other's lives. When I first found her in 2008, like, she was probably about 8 weeks old, and she had fleas all over her face, and she's like, love me. And I was like, you look like I feel, except you have the courage to like be out there with your fleas on your face. I'm hiding my fleas inside of my body. Like, I'm hiding all of this stuff inside of my body. And so we really grew together. I really feel like her energy and just living with her and sharing a life with her was really monumental to my finding numerology, because these numbers kept popping up, like 333, 1111. So I started looking that stuff up. That led me to hypnosis, which led me to meditation. And I would do that work while especially when she got sick. Like, that last year was horrible. She would throw up everywhere. And I was, like I said earlier, I was in a really awful place, and I just wasn't taking care of myself, and I wasn't taking care of her. And I feel like she's been with me throughout this whole journey. I feel like she's here now. Like, there's just been so many times where I felt her presence. And yeah, when I was meditating and I had that sense that, that I felt her energy, and it was just like, name it, Isabel, Tiger Lily. And I was like, yeah, it's perfect.
I love it. I love it. I love it. She's your angel on the other side, helping you and guiding you and still working with you, right?
Yeah.
Still working with you on your soul journey, which I think is amazing. So, and that is beautiful. It's such a beautiful story of resurrection, your life. And like you said, you're not the same person that you were in 2015 or 2018, right? And I don't know. I want to say two things. I want to also go back to. Let's do this first. So when did we meet? Do you remember? What year was that? 20.
It was 2018 or 2019.
Wow.
It was BSchool. It was when we did BSchool together.
Right.
Because I got career coaching. So after I was like, I can't live this type of life that I'm living anymore. Some things have to change. First thing I did was bought the website, because I had been listening to Marie Forleo and watching like her YouTube videos and her, and just really like, I actually had time for all this stuff to settle in, because I'd actually been wanting to do BSchool when she first released it. I think it was around 2016 that I wanted to do it, but I couldn't do that. I was still drinking. I was still doing drugs. I was still like in this place of like, I don't care. I can't feel anything. But I believe that either it was 2019 or 2018 that we did BSchool together, and we did it through Carrie Samuels, because I had done career coaching, and I was done with that, and I was like, I need to build up my website, because I had already had the website for about a year. So yeah, it must have been 2019 then when we took BSchool together, and we were in Carrie Samuels' cohort. And yeah, so we were on one of the breakout rooms, and you had said that you lived in Galveston, and I was like, I live in Houston. And then we just met up for coffee, and we talked for a while. I think that was so interesting, and it was just really refreshing to meet somebody. And that meeting actually helped me open up the possibility that there was more people that I could connect, that were like-minded, that were close by. Cause I was like, everybody's so far away. I didn't, notice that, people were in this local area vicinity. I mean, we're about an hour away or 45 minutes away from each other, but still, like, it was that's how we met. We met up for coffee, and that was really an interesting conversation. I really helped to catapult me into actually offering tarot readings for strangers.
So just so people know, Marie Forleo is she's really well known in some circles, very popular. She is a business leader, a woman who really helps other women become more, what would you say? More in control of your lives, right? Just to recognize that you have something to give, and you are something. And so she started this thing called BSchool, which is business school. And it's for women. And what I think is really interesting is that she has these tracks. So she knew that business school was just a very wide, just so wide. So she would have coaches that you could sign up for. So you might sign up for a coach that maybe is in the cosmetics direction, or maybe that's in the MBA business direction, or maybe it's in the financial sector. Well, she added this track that's the woo-woo track, right? The mystical track. She literally added a coach for mystical people that wanted to start a business. And I had my own business, and you were working towards this already. So we were sort of entrepreneurial minded, right? And we both signed up for Carrie Samuels. And it always surprises me that people don't know who Carrie Samuels is, because she's huge. She's huge. And she's like the fairy godmother. Her energy is so amazing and serene and calm. But inside that mind is a business, like an MBA, Harvard business mind. And so she does numerology. She's a psychic. I mean, she does everything, but I think her main thing might be numerology, right? Francisca? And so we took this track where it was pretty intense, and we were as a school. It was a year-long school, and you had lots of classes. And by the end of the school, you were supposed to be able to have a website and a business. I mean, a real business. But in the middle of that, you would meet with your special track coach, and we would meet with Carrie Samuels. So it was really interesting that we were in this business environment, hardcore business environment. And then also have this woo-woo coach.
Yeah.
But, you know, when Francisca and I agreed to meet, we were both at this point where I see it like we were balls of clay that were not formed. We were just like the mystical side of us was pretty not, you know, formed yet. It could be anything. We could go anywhere. We really didn't even know, right? We had some interest. I mean, we had some experiences, each of us. And so that's when we got together. We started talking about, well, this has happened to me and this has happened to me. And then the funny thing that I think is interesting is Francisca and I started giving each other impromptu readings. Like it would just come out, and we would be like, wow. I mean, it was really deep. The readings were really, really big, deep, important. And they were everything. They were all kinds of information was coming through, from mediumship to psychic to everything. And so we would just have these phone calls, and sometimes you would come down to Galveston because you like the beach, and you would come down and we'd have like coffee or something. And what's really important is it's like I found this person, like she said earlier, Francisca said earlier, we found someone that we could really meet with face to face and have like these experiences, right? These mind-opening, mind-blowing experiences. And you know what? We didn't meet that often, right? I mean, sometimes it was like once a month, maybe, man. Sometimes it was on the phone, but whenever we did, we would just have this connection and be like, just have big leaps and bounds as far as our growth.
Yeah, I completely agree 100%. You know, I think I like I said, I'd been wanting to sign up for BSchool for a while. But it wasn't until I actually like started, you know, working with people, and then I saw Carrie Samuels was doing it, and I was like, no, I have to, because, you know, here's somebody who understands where I'm coming from. Because really at that point, I was like, I'm doing meditation and yoga and aromatherapy. Like, that's it. I had no inkling, or I had no forethought into doing like this more esoteric stuff like tarot. And it's funny because the first time you and I met, Susan, we met for coffee in Galveston, and it was my birthday. I remember this very clearly because I was going down there for my birthday just so I could be out on the beach and put my toes in the sand and just like do this cleansing. And Carrie Samuels had given us as a bonus, like signing up through her, we got a bonus of like all these meditations. And there was a meditation of like, you know, cutting cords. And so when you and I met that day, this was so transformative for me, Susan. And I don't know if you know this, because before I met you, I was already doing tarot readings, but just for like friends and family members and people that I already knew. And I was doing it for myself, but I had never done it for a stranger. And when you and I met, there was something that came up about a book, and I just gave you a reading. And you're right. Like every single time we talk, like just a message comes through from source, from your guides. And it just like, I started realizing that, you know, that, you know, it's not coming from me, because then I'm like, well, what did I just say? Or something like that. But you, Susan, told me that I was psychic, and you're like, you know, you're psychic, you know, you don't need your cards to read people. And I was like, I don't know about that. And you're like, no, you're psychic. Cause I told you something about that your guides had wanted to talk to you about this book that you're supposed to write. And it was funny because I was like, no, they're saying this. And you're like, that's exactly what they told me this morning. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't know. I didn't know that, you know, that could come through me. Because it's funny, because sometimes when this kind of stuff happens, I'm like, I'm just making it up because I'm just talking. Like, I don't know what I'm saying. I just know that it comes, sorry. I just know that it comes through. But the fact that you backed it up by saying that, you know, your guides had just said that to you that morning, I was just like, oh, that's interesting. And that day I went home and I created a login page for scheduling for tarot.
Wow.
And I just opened it up and I was like, okay, I'm just going to open it up. And then I talked to my former business coach, who's also my friend. And it's so funny because I have a call scheduled with her today just to catch up. And her name is Rachel. She's with Clarity on Fire, and they're amazing people to like coach with for business and just life in general. But anyways, I told Rachel about our meeting and I was like, can you believe that, you know, this lady that I met from BSchool, Susan, said that I was psychic? She's like, yep, you definitely, you are, you know, like you definitely are. Like, I don't see why you should second guess that. And I was like, yeah, I was thinking about, you know, offering tarot, maybe, I don't know. And then she's like, well, what do you need to know that, you know, how many people do you need to read that are strangers to know that you're actually, you know, a really good tarot reader? And I said, I don't know, probably about 20. She's like, done. And I was like, what? And so she sent me like this, she sent a mass email out to some friends and she's like, hey, do you guys want to, you know, do a free reading and give her testimonial or feedback? And so this way, you know, she knows, and, you know, yeah. And so one of the ladies actually responded to her email and included me on it. And in the email, Rachel had said, you know, this girl has a bat phone to the universe. And I was just like, what? Not me. You know, I don't know.
A bat phone to the universe?
A bat phone to the universe.
I would use that in my, talk about BSchool. I would be, she has a bat phone to the, I wish I had a bat phone. That's cool.
And you know, when I saw that, I was just like, oh, I don't know that I
do. I know. You're like, wait a minute. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Stop. Somebody stop.
And doing all of those readings really helped me realize, you know, it's because these are perfect strangers. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to do this reading. And I just, you know, kind of allowed myself to get in that space where I could be open to it. And so I was just open and vulnerable and just, I was just like, let whatever come out. But that meeting with you, Susan, is what catapulted that for me. I'm sure that this path has always been laid out, right? But it may have taken me a lot longer had I not met you and had we not come together and met for coffee and just talked, and had you not told me, you know, you're psychic, right? I'm like, yeah.
And the same thing with you, Francisca. You were the one saying, you know, you can do this, you can, you know, and I still haven't written the book. And you know how many people have told me to write the book? And it's been like, they started telling me to write the book when I was a photographer, and I started writing it. And now that I'm a psychic medium, they're still telling me to write the book. Yep. Except for I did get a reprieve. My dad would always say, a reprieve from the governor. That's what he would say whenever he got out of something, right? So I had somebody recently say, oh, you've got a year to write it. I'm like, thank God, you know, I'm going to put it off until, you know, the 11th month. But anyway, you're the person who really told me that. And you also told me so many things about, I'm the kind of person that tries, I wrestle, right? I wrestle with things. Like I'm not the person that if you, like you went back and literally started a webpage for tarot readings. That's like action. You're action oriented. You're like, okay, I'm going to double check this. It checks out. Yes, I'm going to do it. I'm over here laying on the floor, flip-flopping like a fish out of water for, I don't know how long. So you really helped me every time I talk to you. You would literally give me these messages that let me know and kind of gently push you, right? Gently push you forward. So that's the thing. I think Spirit put us together because they knew that we would resonate with each other. And I knew that they knew that, and maybe this is a soul contract, right? Maybe we knew each other from previous lifetimes. I mean, we've never even talked about that before, but right. There's got to be something for us to be so synergistic connected that we could not talk for 6 months and then talk to each other and be like, you know, like right back wherever. It's just amazing.
It's interesting because every time we talk, like we both get something out of it. And I do agree to that. We have that synergistic bond. And and I do believe that we've met before in past lives, because anytime that I meet somebody and that I'm really, just zoomed in on them, I don't know how long, we don't ever really know how long these bonds last or how long, and I just feel like it lasts until it needs to last for both of us, because we're both getting something out of this. Like, you're giving me like these signs and these messages from the universe that I really need to hear, and they're validation, and not just validation, but they're like these, especially with the psychic stuff. I was just like, oh, really? Like, to hear it from a perfect stranger, really somebody who doesn't know me at all, who's never known me and who doesn't know anything about me, for you to say that, and then for me to check with somebody who does know me and they're like, yep, like, it kind of like checks that box off for me. And whenever we talk, like, I don't know about you, but I feel like this is what happens with both of us. I feel like we both start getting like this nudge from the universe, this source, spirit, our guides or whatever. It's like, call Susan. And it's like, call Susan. Yeah. And then something else will come up and it's like, call Susan. And then it gets like really strong. And it's like, I can't put it off anymore. I have to. It comes out in my morning pages. You got to call Susan. It comes out in, like when I'm thinking about things, it comes through in meditation. It comes through in breath work. And I'm like, okay, finally I have to call or, text her or something, and we have to get together. And I remember probably about a year ago when I started, maybe a little over a year ago, when I started doing tarot readings on YouTube, because I got this message that I needed to start doing tarot readings on YouTube. And I was like, I guess I'll start doing it. And then I got this nudge to like talk to you, and like it got stronger and stronger. And then I finally, I think, I don't know if I reached out to you or you reached out to me, but it was one of those synergistic things that, just happened. And I told you about the YouTube channel. And then you told me that you were getting the message to start the YouTube channel. And you're like, I don't know. And I'm like, you just have to go for it. You just have to go for it. And I just tapped into, your guides, or, gave you that little impromptu reading as we usually do. And you're like, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, they're telling you that you got to do it. There's so many people that you need to help. And again, the purpose of the book, because last time we talked, they said, instead of it being 100, now it's 1,000, 1,000 readings to get to that point. And yeah, just that's how I feel too. And I think it's interesting because they just really wanted to push you to do the YouTube channel and do more YouTube readings. And I saw that when you really leaned into who you are and just like kind of leaned into that comfortable space and were really comfortable with it, that's when things started, progressing for you. And so this last time we talked, I was like, this is amazing, because I don't think we had talked since then. I think we had maybe texted each other, but we hadn't had a full on conversation.
That's right. Not during COVID, the whole time. I don't think we talked at all during COVID.
No.
Interesting. It's weird. It's like they do put a bat signal out in the sky. Like, and I start thinking about calling you, and then you start thinking about calling me, and then we are busy. And then finally we're like, okay, we're going to call each other. Right. It's so funny. It's really, really, it's really cool. I'm blessed. I mean, I am blessed to have somebody like you in my life. And I think the message too, for you guys watching this video, is that there are people like this in your life, right? You can have people like this in your life. The first thing that had to happen was I had to join BSchool, which I was very ambivalent about. And then I picked the track for the woo-woo. And then I had to put myself out there in this breakout room, right? I mean, I'm doing a class right now with Medium Kim, and people don't like breakout rooms because they don't like to be in a room with somebody they don't know and have to do something like read them. And so, yeah, you have to put yourself out there. But when you do, you can meet somebody over there like Francisca. And the reason that I met her was because I put myself out there, because I'm very much an introvert. And I think you're an introvert too.
Definitely.
We're introverts. We're completely fish out of water, and we're just kind of a leap of faith, right? Yeah. It was a leap of faith for us to say, hey, I'm in Houston, I'm in Galveston, let's connect sometime. That's not like me. I don't think that's like you either. I mean, no. we each have we could count our friends on our hands.
Exactly.
We're not big, gregarious, outgoing people. We're pretty private, actually. So, spirit nudged us and nudged me to take the class. You get these nudges, and if you just follow them, miracles and things like this can happen. So I think the message is, I think people sometimes watch these videos and say, this can never happen to me. This is nice. It's great, but it can never. Look, I'm telling you right now, it can happen to you. It can. You just have to get out of your comfort zone for anything to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're right. You're right. I am very introverted. I have a handful of friends, and I don't believe in having superficial conversations unless it's necessary. Right. I'm diving into the deep end. Like when we're talking, it's like, bam, let's go all in, and that's part of being an introvert, is that you take your energy from being alone. That doesn't mean you don't like to be, have friendships, but it just means that you have to have that space so that you can reconnect with yourself, because a lot of introverts are also highly sensitive people. They're also probably empaths, and sometimes even codependent, or, have codependent relationships. So, and all three of those, like, except for the codependency, I'm like recovering codependent, but I check all of those boxes. But I think that it's, either whether it takes a small push, to kind of get yourself out of your comfort zone, or it's a longer road. If somebody like me, who used to, wake up, at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and drink a warm beer and smoke a joint, and then, find whatever Coke was left over from last night. If somebody like me can be in a position where I am now, where I'm mostly at this comfortable space where I'm emotionally available, emotionally vulnerable, emotionally settled, and really have my nervous system reset, and really am self-aware, and I'm able to connect to my guidance. If somebody like me can do that, then anybody can do that. Nobody is beyond repair. Nobody actually needs to be repaired. We're perfect the way we are. Everybody's worthy. But it does take that small action, and it's just a small step, like asking somebody for coffee. You just never know where it leads to. And I think the other thing too is, I don't think that either you or I were very attached to what would happen after we met for coffee. Right. I just wanted to meet somebody that was like-minded, that I could connect with, and that was it. And we got so much more. But it can happen with anybody, and does take that small little courage push to just kind of listen to your heart and tune in. But you have to be able to listen first, and not just keep ignoring it, because it's so easy to ignore those messages that we get from source. It's so easy to ignore the messages that we get from our guides or loved ones that have passed. Like, if I would have never listened to the message that Isabel was giving me this whole time, I would have never started the company. I would have never, done all these things, and, use that energy and just really tap into it. And I think another point that I kind of want to make, and I'm sorry, I feel like I'm going off on a tangent here, but I feel like source, God, spirit, the universe, our guides, our angels are always talking to us, but they're in these small ways that we don't know that they're talking to us. It could be like maybe a feather, or maybe a smell, or maybe there's some reminder or feeling that you get. That's not you. You're not making that up. You're really not making that up. If you feel like this is somebody connecting with you, it is somebody connecting with you. We all have this intuition. We all have the ability to connect. The question is, are we listening? Are we open to it?
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And that's what happened to me. It's so interesting. I started with signs. Like when I was going through a rough time, I remember a white feather falling out of the sky. There was no trees. There was no structure above me. There were no birds. And it felt like so slow. And I was just like dumbfounded. I remember watching it just hit the ground, and I thought, what's going on? So it's that kind of thing, right? Where I think they increase the level that they're going to hit you against the head, and then when you finally start catching them, then like the repeating numbers, like last night I started this mediumship class. It was our first class. And during the class,
I wanted to join you guys, but it was on Wednesday.
I'm sorry?
I said I wanted to join you guys, but it was on a Wednesday.
On Wednesday,
the
wrong day, the wrong day. During the class, I kept getting repeating numbers during the class, 707, 717, which is psychic. Those are numbers that relate to being psychic. So they're constantly trying to, you are so right, Francisca, that they're trying to help you. They're trying to give you little signs everywhere. Just be open to them and trust. It's just like she said, believe it, trust it. Why not? What could it hurt? What could it hurt to say, this white feather is my angels telling me they've got my back? These repeating numbers are simply my spirit guides saying, we're with you. We're here. We're supporting you, right? We're standing around you to offer you support and guidance. They're not necessarily telling you to, do this or do that. A lot of times it's just, we're here with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that's all we need. It's just to know that we are not alone. I mean, you're never really alone. I mean, we are connected. All of us are connected anyways. And so you can't ever really be alone, but sometimes it can feel so lonely, and you can just feel like nobody else knows what you're going through, that, your problems are unique to just you. Nobody's ever, gone through a breakup or a separation. Nobody's ever gone through, financial issues. Nobody's ever gone through them the way that you're going through them. And it's so important to know that even though you don't have anybody that's passed, because I know that there's a lot of people who are like, well, I don't know anybody that's passed. Like, I don't have any angels watching over me. And I understand that, because that's how I used to think of it before my first conscious connected breathing session. Like, that's what I thought too. Like, I thought angels are just like religious things that I don't have, like I have a connection to my dad, but that's it. But I think that it's really important to note that even though you don't know anybody that's, no longer physically here, that doesn't mean that you don't have angels or guides, or that you're not connected to source. Whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter. They believe in you.
Yes.
So they're going to be there for you regardless, And so, yeah, you don't have to believe in them. It's fine. I didn't believe in them either. And they were there for me. There were so many times that I got through things that I don't know how I did get through them. And, I can't, there isn't any logical way to explain it. And there doesn't have to be, because I don't have to understand it. It's not up to me to understand. That's not my job. My job is to listen. And my job is just to keep following my heart and my intuition and my internal guidance, and listen to that. And that's everybody else's job too. That's all we really have to do. We make so much stuff up with our mind. It's like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And that's the logical part of us, which is great, because it keeps us alive and it keeps us here on this earth physically. But there's a place for that, and there's a balance. And yeah, so back to my point, even though you don't know anybody that's passed, it doesn't matter. You still have guidance all the time.
All the time. And I think you bring up a really good point about balance, right? This is what strikes me, or what my guides are wanting to talk about, is that I feel like humans, we've become unbalanced with our mental, like we're so, it's like science, right? We want to find out everything. We want there to be a cause and effect, a reason, a practicality to it. And where we're going is the veil thins between the worlds as we go into 2022. We're going to a place where we're going to have to balance this part of our life, this part of our rational thinking, daily living, with this part. We're going to have to balance our energy and our knowing and our empathic, or even our clairsentience, our feelings, with the brain. That's got to be better balanced. Right now, it's really unbalanced. And I think as humans, we're being led to balance those better. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's so true. And just even when you said that, like, I just took a big, deep, like, breath of like fresh relaxation, and just like kind of breathed into that, because it's so true. Like, we're humans. we're spirits having this human experience, and it's like we're spiritual beings, but we're human too. And if you're not experiencing life, then you're really not taking advantage of this human experience, because we're supposed to be experiencing things. And you have to be able to get out of your head sometimes and get back into your heart, but you can't always live in your heart. And there's so many people that really need that balance, and that's one of the reasons that people come and see me, is to get that balance, because either they're living too much in their head or they're living too much in their heart. And when you're not in balance, you can't really manifest the things or materialize those things that you really want to, because either you're stuck in the doing or you're stuck in the dreaming. And you can't just have a dream and not act on it and expect it to come. I love law of attraction. I believe that it is one of the most important laws to kind of take note and acknowledge. And at the same time, you can just sit and get all of these downloads, and that's great. But you also have to take action, and you can take all this action, but if you don't have it attached to what is calling you inside your soul, then it's not going to work. Like nothing works without the other. It's like a bicycle. You need both. And even like a unicycle, you still need the motion. You can't just take a bicycle and take it out and ride it, like just sit on it. It's not going to go anywhere, and even getting in a car, like you can't take that forward momentum until you put the foot on the gas pedal. Like nothing's going to move unless you take the action, but you have to have that intuition come through first. And as humans, I feel like we are moving towards this shift. Some of us slower than others, and that's fine too. But part of the reason that you may be going through these difficult periods is because it's trying to push you to the other side. I would have never thought that, and I don't want to say that suffering is part of that, but sometimes that is, some of us are hard-headed. I know I am. And so sometimes you need to suffer a little bit just to get on the other side, because any other way isn't going to do it for you. Like you can get all the signs in the world, but you're like, yeah, I don't want to do it that way. I'm not going to do it that way. It isn't until something makes you listen that you do it. And then balancing that logic with the emotion and the logic with the spirituality. And that part of you that is that is not tangible, the part of you that you cannot touch, the part of you that is always with you, balancing those two out, the tangible with the intangible, is, I believe, where we are going. And it's so important. And I think that that's why so many people are really looking to mediumship and really looking towards, like really trying to tune into themselves, meditation and yoga. And that's why I think all of these things are getting a lot more prevalent, is because people are understanding that they need that balance.
Yes. Yeah. And as we're talking, once again, every time I talk to her, I get some major, like super major important thing that's like a billboard. Susan, please pay attention to this bill. And it's flashing, right? So my thing right now is the balance. Like I finally figured out, like, big red truck, that I'm out of balance. Like I can switch to the practical and I can switch to the psychic, mediumship, and I can just switch them back and forth. And that's what I've been doing. And I think that that's why certain things I'm out of balance. And I think that instead of switching, like as in on, off, I think that what would be helpful for me is to balance those more. So there's not so much of a big black and white difference, between them. Like, why can't they be more balanced? Why can't they be more symbiotic? Right. So I think that's really interesting. So now let me switch back to the breath work. So if I were to take the quiz on your site, some questions that I have would be like, what kind of physical health this breath work sounds like a marathon or something like, so that's probably why you did the quiz, right? So, know, if some people what if they have asthma? What if they're out of shape? What if they feel like this might be too much for them? Do you have like a way to is there like a entry level or a more gentle way to start that?
No, it's really, so breathwork is just a term that's used to talk about any type of technique that you can use intentional breathing for. So just even focusing on your breath and taking a deep breath into your belly, that's breath work. But the type of breathing that I facilitate, and I do a whole bunch of different, I do pranayama because I'm a yoga instructor as well. But the type of breathing that I do is called conscious connected breath work. And this is really intense. You breathe with an open mouth, and it's a breathing pattern that goes into the belly, into the chest, and then out through the mouth. And so you're breathing like that, and it's connected. So because of that, it is not for some people. It's really intense, and you do it for probably about 30 minutes of the active breathing. And then you have like 15 to 30 minutes of like a resting period where, you're just relaxing and stuff like that, because things happen in your body. It's a physiological response. You're laying on the floor like that, you're off and with an open mouth, you're really increasing the oxygen intake, but you're also offloading lots of carbon dioxide. And it is not for people who have had aneurysms. It is not for people who have had heart conditions or that are unsupported by their doctor. It's not for people who have issues serious mental or medical issues that, again, are not supported by a professional. So I have done this. If you have asthma, it's actually really great. If you have anxiety, this might actually increase your anxiety for a bit, and you could breathe through that too. It actually helps people with anxiety, people with trauma. So those are the big, and if you're pregnant, then you might just want to do a softer version of this. But this type of breathing technique, I have a YouTube video for conscious connected breath work for beginners, and it's a really soft breathing practice, and it's only 8 minutes. And the reason that I did that is because it's like 5 minutes of breathing and 3 minutes of resting, and then I kind of introduce the technique and kind of tell you what it's about. And the reason that I do that is because everybody's experience with breath work is going to be different, but I really think that people need to be aware of what they're getting into when they do this type of breath work, because I don't want you to be caught unaware and it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was going to happen to me. But sometimes people get, spiritual downloads. But there's different types of breathing techniques that you can use. And so what I've done with the quiz is when you get your results at the bottom, there is a breathwork practice that is, suitable for your personality. And I include 3 different types of breathing techniques. One of those techniques is conscious connected breathwork, and I link to the video. And then the other 2 are different techniques just based on your personality and what would probably fit you the best. And so there's softer techniques. Roller coaster breath is a really great technique that you can use, and anybody can use. I use it with the kids when I used to do these workshops for creativity for our special ed kids over at the local middle school. And so roller coaster breath is a really amazing breathing technique. You take a hand and it's outstretched, and then you inhale, and then you exhale on the way down. So you use your hand to kind of trace out. And this is really good for people who have a hard time meditating. Breathwork is a really great tool because you're getting into a meditative state without having to close your eyes, without having to go outside of yourself. Although I do like to do breathwork with my eyes closed. And so you would inhale for 4 counts and then exhale for 4. And so this is a really soft and gentle breathing technique. Inhale for 4, exhale for 4. And just even that resets your nervous system. So there's so many different ways to intentionally breathe. But yeah, conscious connected breath work puts the work in breath work. And what's different about the way that I do it is that I have people submit songs to me. 3 songs that make them feel emotional, 3 songs that make them feel grateful, 3 songs that make them feel motivated. And I rearrange them in a playlist. And one of the biggest reasons that I do that is because when I'm making a playlist for somebody based on the songs that they sent me, I'm really tapping into their energy to kind of see what spirit wants me to kind of rearrange those songs. And the last time that I did this, I had one person give me like 3 songs, and they're like for an hour session. And we did a negative energy cleanse and all of that. But the other songs that I picked to kind of include that, because I needed an hour worth of music, and she gave me like, 15 minutes worth of music. So I had to fill that space, and I really just like kind of dug into my intuition. I was just like, well, what does she need? And so there's a different way to kind of build this cadence of music that really allows the client to be able to release whatever needs to be released, and to have that introduction of spirit, or that download that they need to up level their life and just really thrive in life, instead of just using their breath to survive it. Because we need our breath, right? We're breathing right now, but we're using our breath to survive most of the time, when you can actually use your breath to thrive, and use your breath to connect, and really get into the space of connection. But there are different levels of breathing, and I actually created a course that's called the Conscious Breath Connection course, that really takes you through different levels of conscious connected breathing, so that you can do it in a way that works for you. You don't have to match anybody else's breath when you do breath work. Really, it's about taking your internal guidance and using your intuition, which is what breath work helps you do, is to tap into your body so that you can get the messages. So that's another way of helping you get to your intuition. And yeah, it's definitely not for some people, but for those people that it is, that want to do the work of breath work, there's really this wall that you get to break through to release all these emotions and get to the other side of it.
Wow. So if they're under a doctor's care, they can do this work. You're saying, when you say supported by the doctor, you mean under doctor's care.
Right.
And then also you did the roller coaster breathing with middle school kids, with special ed middle school kids. I love that. I remember you talking about volunteering, right? You were actually volunteering in schools to teach kids how to meditate.
Yes.
Which is amazing. What an amazing thing that you did for these kids.
Yeah, it was so rewarding. I haven't been able to do it just because of COVID. But it's this middle school that I actually went to. And this is a full story circle too. Like, I followed my intuition to help this lady put water bottles in her cart at the grocery store. And through the meeting with her, I followed my intuition, and I ended up doing meditation for the teachers, and then also doing meditation for a special ed class. And we would do things like make jewelry, use aromatherapy, paint, because I love to paint. And so I would bring my canvases, and I would like give them canvases to paint with. And these are an amazing group of kids. I mean, it was just so rewarding in itself, and teaching them to meditate, teaching them these different tools and techniques, because we all have these tools inside of us. We just don't know how to utilize them. That's why meditation's been around for thousands of years. That's why breath work has been around. Shamans do it. And, the Mesoamericans did it to do rebirthing and all kinds of things. And so using our inborn innate gifts really can help you reset your nervous system, and doing it for kids who really already have maybe a difficult time anyways, just in life in general, have special needs and are differently abled than other children are, was really rewarding to see them, kind of use these breathing techniques and be able to say, oh, I did it when I got mad at my mom, or I did it when I was frustrated about homework. It's really rewarding to see that transition just by doing something like this, tracing your fingers and breathing at the same time. I mean, who could think that your breath can be this powerful, but it really is. And for kids, middle school kids, to be able to do it is amazing too, to teach them to be able to do it. And then we'd also do creativity stuff, because I feel like that is also another way to tap into your intuition and that fluidity and that flow. And I feel like that's also really important too. So I was like, I can mix these two together. I can get it, so that it can be interesting for them, so they get that out of it. But then also they can tap into their breath and their body and do different things like yoga and meditation. And that was so fun and so rewarding. I can't wait to start doing that again.
And that all started, remember when we were just talking about getting out of your comfort zone and how we took a chance on meeting each other right? First of all, we took a chance on the class and then doing the breakout room, because some people don't like doing that. And then we took the chance of reaching out to each other. And here we are. And here you were in a grocery store helping somebody put a case of water in their cart. And then you just had a conversation, right? Just a conversation. And then somehow you got contact information from each other, or you knew to go to that school and just
that conversation led to another conversation, which led to another conversation, which all following my intuition. And what I wanted to do at that point was she introduced me to some people in the neighborhood, because she's really big in the city planning and city council and things like that. And I didn't know that when I was helping her with the water. I was just like, because she was an older lady and she was dressed really nice at the grocery store. And I was like, I'd like to dress like that when I get older. I'd like to, she was all nice and, I mean, nothing spectacular, but just really put together. And I was like, for somebody that age, I'd love to, when I'm that age, I'd love to, just be, prim and proper, and just not even prim and proper, but just like really put together, and she was looking at at her cart in the water and just like going back and forth. And it's like, talk to her. And this is when I had just started listening to my intuition, Susan. I hadn't yet like really fully enveloped in it, but I had some practice. And so I was like, talk to her. And it's like, just talk to her. So I talked to her. She invited me to clean up at the school, at the park. It's a park like 5 blocks away from me. And so she invited me to clean up at the park. And so I was like, okay, I'll go. And there was some people that were there that were, I guess, from a church group. And I was like, I don't know, because I don't know like how I feel about, because I don't have anything against organized religion. That's just not my thing. I grew up Catholic, and I grew up like feeling very guilty about all my original sin and all of that. And, so anyways, so where we were cleaning up the park, there's a community center right next door. And so I got the intuitive hit to offer meditation at the community center. So my laptop broke. It was a day I was supposed to work from home, but I was working from work. But then something told me like, you have to go back to your house and you have to like submit your application, because it was a paper application, because I couldn't submit it online because my laptop broke. And anyways, so I go during my lunch break, knowing I don't have enough time. Like I had an hour and a half in lunch, but going from Westview to the east end of Houston, and like, submitting your paperwork. And I go there and they're having a meeting, and it's the lady that I met at the grocery store having a meeting with the local school. And the school liaison was there, and he's like, oh, what are you doing here? I was like, dropping off this application to do meditation here. And he's like, well, would you mind volunteering at our school? And I was like, yeah, what school is it? And he tells me the name of the school. At the time, I didn't realize that the name of the school that I went to, the middle school that I went to, had changed, because it used to be called Jackson Middle School. And they changed the name to Yolanda Navarro Middle School. And so he kept saying Navarro. And I was like, okay, great. And when I get home and I look up the school, I was like, this is the school that I went to. And I wish I would have had meditation when I was that age, because it would have made such a big difference. And so I started meditating for the teachers first, and then the students later on. But yeah, just all by following my intuition, little bitty nudges, and just not even saying, this is why I'm doing it. Just like,
you can't see it. You can't see the end. That's what people always want the answer. Like even me, I want the answer, right? So you're in the grocery store, and then you're at a park, and then you're at a community center, and then you're, it's like this, right? You can't see, because they're guiding us. And listen, if you had been at the grocery store and not helped her, that wouldn't have worked. They would have had to connect you in a different way. So when you don't make that connection, I just see all our guides going, plan B.
Yes.
They're running around like, okay, she's going to go over there. Let's make that, so God bless them. They're like over there just trying to herd us in another direction. And what a beautiful thing that you said. Had I had meditation like this, had I been exposed to this when I was in middle school, maybe that would have changed my whole life. Which means, Francisca, you're changing these kids' lives. You're giving them the opportunity to change their life. Maybe you're not changing it, but you certainly are presenting a skill for them that they may call on, they may forget about it. And then when they're 25, they may say, gosh, I just have this memory of me doing this. I'm going to look into it. That's a nudge, right? So that's beautiful. That's an example of how hard our angels and guides work to get us to but we have to do the work. It's like you said with the bicycle. You can sit on the bicycle. You're not going to go anywhere. You actually did it. The woman said, hey, come to a cleanup. Who wants to go to a park cleanup?
Yeah.
You probably had a lot better things to do, but you went to the park cleanup and then you met somebody else. And then you were at work and something said, go home. You're like, I can't go. Like me, Mr. Practical, the brain, I can't get from one side of Houston to the other side of Houston. Sometimes it's an hour just in traffic one way. You never know. It's like, you never know what's going to happen. But you did it. And all those things fell into place, and all those things fell into place to put you where you are right now.
Right. Right. And, you know, I love what you said about like, they're like plan B, plan B, plan B, because we can never miss what's meant for us.
Yeah. Right.
It can feel like it's taking too long. A lot of things feel like they're taking too long, and I'm very impatient. I don't like to wait for stuff, especially when I have my mindset on something. I'm like, it has to happen now. But even like with this quiz that I built, I had this idea for a quiz a couple of years ago. And then I had a solid idea for the quiz that I created now. And it's gone through so many reiterations over the last year, but it's because I needed to grow into it too. Sometimes we need to grow into stuff. Sometimes just because you have the idea doesn't mean that it's ready right now. You're planting that seed. There's so many things that have happened in my life just in the last 3 years that have been because I followed my intuition. This breath work that I teach, I would have never learned about any of this had I not gone and started learning how to play guitar.
I remember that story.
Yes.
I remember that story.
Yeah.
I remember you going, you're not going to believe this, but I decided I wanted to do something. I wanted a new hobby, and I always was interested in guitar. So I went and took guitar lessons, and then tell the story. I'm telling you guys, you cannot make this stuff up. You can't.
I was sitting in this exact chair because this is my meditation chair and also my recording chair. So I was sitting in this exact chair and I was meditating. And the last 5 minutes of my meditation, I was like, there's this joyful feeling of me playing the guitar and me just, playing the guitar around my family at Christmas time. And this was around right before Thanksgiving. And so I was like, yeah, like I can really feel myself doing that. And I've had an acoustic guitar that I bought for myself in 2012. It's been sitting there collecting dust. And I was like, I need to learn how to play guitar. As soon as I got out of meditation, I got up and I started looking up guitar teachers in Houston. I found two that I really, really liked. One that was like 15 minutes away and another one that was further away. And the further away one didn't make logical sense to me. I really wanted hour-long lessons on Saturdays, and he didn't offer that. And he was only answering me by text. And I really wanted to call somebody because I wanted to like feel into it. I wanted it to be intuitively right. And I was like, I have to talk to somebody for it to be right. And even though logically seeing the guy that was closer and had the lessons that I wanted was the logical thing to do, something just didn't sit right intuitively and in my gut, in my heart. And then the other guy messaged me because I was like, give me a sign that, I'm doing the right thing. Well, the other guy, his name is Alan, my guitar teacher, texted me and he's like, hey, I have a Saturday opening. If you want it, the spot's yours. Let me know if you're still interested. And I was like, well, that's a big enough sign for me. So I signed up for the lessons, and then I'm driving to my first lesson one Saturday, and it's a 40-minute drive on a Saturday. And I was like, can I make this every week? Like, can I really do this? And I get there and we start talking. And I think our second lesson, he's like, because he asked me what I do. And I was like, I teach yoga and I teach it at a middle school and I volunteer and I do meditation. And he's like, oh, well, if you're really into that, you might like this thing called breathwork. And I was like, yeah, I do breathwork. I do pranayama all the time and yoga. Like I know all about breathwork. He's like, no, this is a really integrative breathing. It's supposed to integrate your breath with your mind, body, and spirit. And I was like, ooh. So the lady, her name is Mary Opperman, had a breathing class, and I finally was able to do it because it was a Friday morning. It was a Friday after Thanksgiving. And I'll never forget it because I went, and that's the day I started believing in angels. I met my dad there. I met my grandmother there. I was connected to everything and nothing. I was nothing and everything at the same time. I was in and out. I was up and down. I was here and there. I was just floating. All of my body opened up. I felt light pour through my entire body. And after the session, I was like, I don't know shit. I don't know anything. I don't know anything. Like, there is nothing that I know, and there's nothing that I need to know, because all of this has been in place. My guitar teacher met the breathwork coach years, 20, 30 years ago. This has been in the making that long. It's been in the making. And all I had to do was get into a state of receiving through meditation and follow that intuition and follow the nudge. And I was like, I need to learn how to teach this. The breathwork teacher that I did the class with didn't teach it. And so I was like, I have to find out how to do this. And so I found a course through John Paul Cremy, like that next month. And I went to Los Angeles. I flew to Los Angeles in January of that year. And I was like, as soon as I came out, I was like, I have to combine this with tarot. I have to let people breathe to their own music. And I have to be able to guide them that way. And I have to be able to offer, readings for them if they want them, because some people are open to it. And I was like, I have to do it. I have to do it, because if it helps me connect to myself that way. And then this other breathing technique that I do called conscious connected breathing really helps you to release emotional baggage. Then that is the synergistic modality that I need to help people get to this place, because I think that we teach what we most need to learn ourselves. And there's so much emotional work that I've had to do on myself to get to this place. And there's so much more that I still have to do, but I keep doing it because it is such an amazing thing. But yeah, following your intuition, that is another story of following your intuition and just like not knowing where it's going to go. And it really floats into these amazing things. And the way that you know that the outcome is because you followed your intuition is because it's so much better than you could have ever imagined. Yes. And it's more than you've ever wanted. And it's all the things that you've wanted combined. And so it's beautiful to do that, and beautiful to like, that's what people mean when they say let go of the outcome, because I had no idea that taking guitar lessons was going to lead me to be a breathwork facilitator. Like, though there's no correlation there. But following your intuition is what helps you get to those places. And it's like, it's not immediate. Nothing is.
Right. I love that. That's amazing. So I'm drawn to ask you, so I want to make it kind of clear, because we've talked about this breathing modality that sounds like it could be more intense, right? Yeah. And then you have another breathing modality, if I'm hearing you correctly. You have another breathing modality that's a little more gentle. Is that correct? Right. Okay. So you have different modalities for people depending on where they are or what they're willing to experience. But what I'm getting psychically is that it doesn't really matter. If you're doing the gentle breathing modality, you're still offloading toxins, is what they just told me. You're still offloading negativity. You're dropping old patterns. You're dropping old energies. You're, I feel like it's very healing. I feel like it's very healing for your energetic body. And it opens up possibilities. So you don't really need to do this unless you really want to, which will rock on, right? But if you want to just experience it in a gentler form, you still get a lot of the same benefits, maybe not as to the same scale, right? But you still get some amazing benefits from this more gentler form of breathing with you. And then the next question I have is, can you do this through Zoom or through long distance?
Yeah. So you always get whatever it is that you need out of breath work, you're going to get it. With this conscious connected breathing, as long as you keep the pattern of inhale, exhale, you're going to be fine. Sometimes we switch it up and we just do inhale in, inhale out. It just depends on what you need. Every breathing session is going to be different for each person, and each breathing session that everybody does is going to be unique and specific to them for that moment. Sometimes you really need to release some emotional stuff. Sometimes you just need to connect to source. Sometimes you need a combination of all of that. Sometimes you just need to de-stress. Sometimes you just need to offload whatever it is that is on your energetic self. So it just is really, it's not something that is like a 1 and 1 equals 2. Like it doesn't, it's not that kind of mathematical, tangible deal. It's really subjective to each person. And there's so many things that you can do in person, but we're all energetic beings. So energy, like right now, you and I are connecting, and we could talk in person, and there's this different thing. Like we could hug each other, or we could like really like kind of, really gaze into each other's eyes. And, there's different things that you can do in person, but we're still energy. So yes, you can do it over Zoom. And I do a lot of this over Zoom. I've actually done breath work with people in Australia. So yeah, you can definitely, like, the time difference is a little, you have to work around that, but you can do this. You can do this through Zoom. You can do it in person. You can do it in a group setting. You can do it in whatever way you'd like to. The difference between in person and in Zoom is in person, there is the ability and availability for me to kind of support you through touch. Which sometimes I'll do Reiki, and sometimes we'll do some different stuff. Maybe we'll do some aromatherapy, just depending on the type of session that you need. Over Zoom, obviously I can't touch you and help guide you and tell you like to kind of breathe into that spot. But if we have the camera angled in a way where I can see your lower belly up to the throat, then I can tell you like, okay, maybe just breathe a little bit more into the solar plexus, or maybe put your hands on your collarbone and, bring the air up there, or maybe put your hands on your hips and kind of breathe into the lower belly, because I can see where the breath is going. And so I can direct you so that you can facilitate your breathwork session a little bit more deeper. And then there is the part that anybody can do over Zoom or even over phone, which is the processing part of it, talking through it, and really, having that time to emotionally process, I think, is one of the things that is most transformational, is when you can get through and talk to somebody and, talk through your feelings and what came up for you. Sometimes that's where some of the reading stuff comes in. Sometimes that happens, and then just, kind of have to not do that. That's what did you call it? Psychic vomiting, or where you just offload, a big psychic message, and so sometimes that's what happens throughout the emotional processing part of it. So it can be done over Zoom, and you can do it as gently or as intense as you need it. But again, I think that you always get what you need, and your breath leads you to that space back home to yourself.
Fantastic. It sounds transformative. Really, it sounds absolutely transformative. And just briefly, so what would you say? So you went through this period where you, where you had your spiritual awakening, right? You were using or abusing drugs, and then you went through this health scare, which gave you a month where you couldn't do anything except for recuperate, right? And heal. And so do you feel like that the meditation and which you had already been doing, right? Your guides had already, oddly enough, had you doing meditation while you were doing these other destructive things.
Yeah.
And then when you had this transformation with your health, then sort of what kind of set your boat on the right course was meditation. And then from there, it just kind of kept growing. You just kept adding to it. Is that correct?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that really helped me kind of navigate those waters, because I kind of broke through the storm, and I, like if I'm like in an ocean setting, like I broke through the storm, it's clear and calm waters, and that's great. But I was like, what do I do now? Like, what is my next step? And so my next step was to hire a career coach. And I thought that I was going to do career coaching. But it was really actually a whole life reset to help me, instead of, just living my life, to really, or to existing in my life, to really live my life. And so it was through the career coaching that I was able to connect to my intuition and start following it a little bit more. Right before I started career coaching, I started meditating on a daily basis. And so then through following my intuition, I was able to take aromatherapy courses. And I had already become a Reiki master at that point before I started doing the career coaching, because I was like, I'm going to do Reiki maybe and coaching together. And maybe I need to get coached with a coach to see how coaching works. And, it was Reiki. First, it was meditation, then it was Reiki, then it was aromatherapy, then it was a mindfulness-based stress reduction course. And then I took a certified meditation guide course. And then I took yoga. And then I, really dove into tarot and then breath work. And so it was just really one built off the other. It was just really having that basis to come home to myself and to really check in with myself through meditation, kind of stacked things up for me to do the Reiki and to do all of these other things. And so it was just kind of a ladder, just following all the steps all the way up through to where I am now. And I'm sure there's so many more steps, but yeah, no, it was just that having a coach really helped me kind of break through and follow my intuition and get to these other modalities that I use and sometimes combine in sessions.
Fantastic. So again, you were balancing, right? The coach with the spiritual, the coach, the action oriented, but you also, all your modalities were these spiritual modalities. So I just think you've done a great job of balancing these two parts, which I think is, again, something that I feel like a lot of us right now are struggling with. We're coming on as spiritual beings. A lot of people are having spiritual awakenings. And so that's happening, but yet we're trying to make it make sense with our mental thinking. And it's not making sense. We don't really know how to balance it. So I think that's really important. And then, so you also offer tarot readings.
Yes.
And psychic readings. And I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm not throwing you under the bus, but you're a medium. If you're seeing people's crossed over loved ones during these breathwork exercises, which is common. I mean, listen, I had visions. One of the ways that I woke up was having massages, and I would have visions of, literally ascended masters, Buddha, Jesus would come to me and just stare at me. You know what I mean? So it's very common when you're in that space of, like you said, when you had your first session with that lady, that you were here, there, nowhere. I mean, you're across the veil a lot of times, but for you also bring those things to your clients. So if someone's loved one comes in with a message, that's just part of the experience. And right. Then I think also you're probably drawn, when you do you're talking to them and you're kind of processing, you're drawn to bring a tarot card or an oracle card or whatever it is. I think you just listen to the guidance and you provide that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about breath work is that people that don't know that they can connect to their loved ones, actually, they themselves connect to their loved ones.
Great. Okay.
And so what I'm helping people do is clear that energy that's really got them bogged down so that they can't listen and hear the message. And so they're able to get a direct message. So I am helping to facilitate their experience so that they can open up and receive whatever it is that they need to receive, whether that's a direct connection from their guides, from their spirit, from source, or from loved ones. So they're actually doing the direct connection. Sometimes when they tell me that they've connected directly, I'm like, oh, that's what I felt. Or, oh, this is what, came through too while you were doing the breathing technique. Because there's a lot of, it's kind of like allowing somebody to breathe in this pattern and then letting their breath take over, because the breath is intuitive. It knows what it needs to do. I mean, I don't have to tell myself to breathe right now, but when you start breathing in this intentional pattern, then the breath takes over. You connect with your body. You're able to open up that channel, and then you're able to receive whatever guidance it is you need to receive. Messages will come through sometimes, and I might get the message too. And I'm like, oh, that's why I got this message. And then I will expand on it. And then they will be like, yes, this is, and then this is what the message I got. And then this is what this means, because I have no idea what it means when they start talking about, something at 17. And so the number maybe 17 will keep playing in my head while they're breathing. And so I'll tell them that afterwards, and they're like, yes, this happened when I was 17, or, this is what happened. And this is what, my father told me, and, throughout their breathwork session. And so it's a really kind of synergistic conversation that happens, because I'm getting these messages, I have no idea what they mean. And then I'm just kind of relaying it to them, and they're like, oh, and they're able to work the things out through a conversation. And so it's really interesting, which is why I feel like calling it a reading isn't accurate, because it's more of a conversation with source or with their guides through me as the facilitator of it. And so, yeah, that's why I kind of have hangups about, saying that I'm a psychic, or that, I do, but I understand that because I'm able to open myself up to it and follow the guidance, that I'm able to kind of help relay these messages, which is, being psychic, but, but at the same time, there's like, it's not the traditional way that a reading goes. Like, there aren't questions that people ask me directly or specifically that I think that I have access to. I think that I have access to those downloads that I get, and then, having that kind of a way of like it being a more organic way of it unfolding, and maybe like an organic unfolding of spiritual guidance.
Right. So it's a process, right? It's a process. Wow. Well, this has been amazing. I have enjoyed so much talking to you and remembering some of the things that I never will forget. This guitar guy, I mean, it's just amazing, the journey that you've been on, and that you remember, you just have such a good mental clarity about the steps and where you were. And I don't have that kind of sharp memory about, my steps. So I love that. I love that you're able to show people, listen, we've shown you, follow, just step out of your comfort zone a little bit, follow the nudge, see what happens. But if you don't, Spirit has your back. They're going to continue supporting you. They're never going to leave your side. Never. They're always going to be there for you. They're always going to be there with another nudge or another opportunity for you. It doesn't matter how long it takes. And I love that too, what you said about when you have an idea or you get a nudge, it doesn't always mean, this is something this is a message for me as well, because I'm impatient, right? So when I get a nudge that I need to, this has happened a lot in the last couple of months, that I get this picture or nudge or however message you get it, that I need to do something. Well, I'm like, well, let's go. and a lot of times it's really like, that step one is the knowing, is the acknowledgement. Then maybe there's a bunch of other steps. Maybe you do need to sit with it for a little bit, right? And maybe that's an important thing, is to sit with these nudges and then feel like, once I acknowledge it, okay, I acknowledge that I received a message about going back to school or whatever it is, changing jobs, whatever it is. Now I'm just going to sit with it for a day or two and feel like if I have pressure to act. If you have pressure to act, then they want you to move forward, right? If you sit with it for a couple of days and you feel like just acknowledging it was good enough, then that means that you are where you're supposed to be. How does that sound, Francisca?
Oh, that sounds beautiful, because, you can't always follow every single nudge. Like sometimes things just don't feel right, and they may not feel right because it's not the right time, or maybe it's just opening it up. And maybe sometimes I think what people don't understand too is that sometimes they're giving you a choice. It's like, how does this sound? We know you want this, but how does it sound? How does this sound?
Yes.
And I think because we have free will, and so, your guides can't come down and force you to do something. And if they did, you wouldn't want to do it. Like you wouldn't. You're like, this is my life. You can't tell me what to do. I know that I would,
No, so I do on a normal, on a daily basis, actually. They tell me, yes, go ahead. Absolutely. You're so right. Right. Like one time they gave me this nudge and I was like, and they nudge. And I like, okay, I finally did it. And now I'm like, now what do I do? And their message was, we just want you to be happy. If you're happy, go do it.
So before our call, I pulled some cards, and Susan's card was fall in love with your own story. So I don't know, you can see that.
You can see it right there. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, fall in love with your own story. So that was Susan's card. Just be happy, just fall in love with your own story. And my card was bravely market your magic.
I know this was before the reading, guys. Before the reading. I'm telling you again, you cannot make this stuff up. We are spiritual beings and living a human experience. She's absolutely right. So this is Francisca with Isabel Tiger Lily. I'm going to put as much information in the description as I can. I mean, certainly her website and all the ways, her channel, her YouTube channel, all the ways to contact her, but also some of the things that she mentioned. If you guys are interested, like the coaching or whatever information, obviously you guys leave comments. I'm sure she can jump in the comments and answer any comments that you guys have specifically for her. You can email her with your questions. You can check out her website. You can do the quiz. It's free. Just do the quiz and see what your personality and what your energy matches for what modality of healing that you need. And she can do this remotely. So wherever you are, she can help you. And I have to say that it's unbelievable the transformation that she's gone through and that I've gone through. But she went through this transformation doing this work that she's now offering. So she's walking the walk and talking the talk. This is the transformation that you can have by doing the kind of work that she does. So hopefully you guys will check her out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really do. We do it to help you guys, and so much love is pouring out of us to you guys right now. Thank you so much, Francisca, for being with me and being on this journey and being such an important part of my journey. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Susan. I just love talking to you each time, and I'm so glad that you invited me on. And I think that we are kindred spirits, and we've met many lifetimes, probably multiple lifetimes before. So I really love speaking with you. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Just follow your heart, follow your intuition, listen to the inner guidance. We all have it. And yeah, it's an amazing thing that can happen when you just listen to that inner guidance. So I hope that you do it. And I'm sending you guys lots of love, lots of light, and lots of wellness.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks again, everybody. Check out her channel, and you guys all have a great time today, wherever you are. Many blessings. Bye, everybody.